So hello everyone. Today I'm gonna show how to draw properly and to understand when to use which clasp when we design RPDs. So I'm gonna start talking about the direct retainers. So remember, when we design an RPD we have direct retainers and indirect retainers. So our direct retainers, which is our topic now, are the clasps. Now we know that the clasp, we have two types, the suprabulge and the infrabulge. So first we're gonna see the suprabulge ones. So the first thing I want you guys to understand is what is the simplest one and the common shape that we have. So it is like this. Just draw it like this. Okay. There we go. So imagine if this is a molar. Or a premolar, whichever. So we come like this. So this is a regular cast circumferential. So cast circumferential, which is synonym, it's also called an acres or suprabulge. So we talk suprabulge, that's the classification. Which one specifically? The cast circumferential, because it is made of cast. So what does cast mean? It means the material, but it means that all this structure is together. It's not separated. So because we have three portions, basically four portions in this direct retainer. So I'm gonna split it. So here it's one, here is two, and here is three, and this is the fourth one. So what does it mean? This is the retentive arm. We should have a retentive arm, and we should have a reciprocal arm. We should have a rest, an occlusal rest, and here it's included the guiding plane. Guiding plane, or its synonym, which is the proximal plate. So proximal plate. So this is the basis, the basic one, okay? So that is the purpose. So now that you guys know this, I'm gonna start talking about the other ones. So there are a lot of confusion when we talk and we say, how do I draw an RPA combination clasp, which is a rod wire? So starting from this point, you know that the cast circumferential is all together. Okay, one single structure. So what happens when we talk about another type of suprabulge retainer that is called the RPA? Okay, so RPA, that means RPA. So mesial rest. So I'm gonna draw here. Okay, we're gonna draw here like a premolar. Sorry for my drawings. I'm going really fast. So let's say this is the mesial rest. So this is the way you can draw it. Like, it's not necessarily that you just draw it like this and put a point like that, which is the rest, which is okay, it's valid. But I think it's better if you actually draw the shape that it would actually look when you get back from the lab. So that's the mesial rest. And then go here. That's the mesial rest. Has to be connected to the structure, right? So it goes connected to the rest of the major connector. So that's a minor connector. Then in an RPA you have a guiding plane, which is here. Okay, the guiding plane, a proximal plate. But just in there, it continues and it goes the retentive arm. So this is called an RPA. Distal proximal plate, mesial rest, and A because it's an acres or an acres. So an acres is just a regular one that we saw, which is this one. So what is the variation? Why is it called RPA? Because the distal rest now it's in the mesial. And the difference is that we will not have a proximal, a reciprocal arm here. Okay, you just have the distal guiding plane here, and then the minor connector, and it comes here from the rest of the structure that you're doing here. And that's the retentive arm. So this will play, all of this will play like the reciprocal arm, the minor connector, and this portion here. So that's the RPA design. Now, let's see another suprabulge. Then I'm gonna make the difference between the infrabulge clasps. So when we go to another suprabulge, another common one is the back action. So let's draw here a premolar. Okay, I'm sorry for my drawings. So, okay, let's say that's a premolar. So your back action comes to say this is the mesial, the distal, the buccal, the lingual. So it comes here from the mesial, and it comes here like this. Okay, so it comes like this and engages there, and it follows here just the rest of the structure. So what's this? The retentive arm, the rest, the guiding plane. Okay, that's the design of a back action. When do we use the back action? We want to engage a what? A distal buccal undercut. However, we can modify it and also use it the other way around. So now you have to know which undercuts, in which positions are we going to use each clasp. So the back action, we use it for the distal buccal. But I can change the direction and come from here. And now I go all the way to the buccal and I engage the distal lingual. You draw it like this, and this joins the rest of the structure. So now, this is again the mesial, the buccal, the lingual, and the distal. So now we're engaging a distal lingual undercut with the same clasp, which is a suprabulge clasp called the back action, which is made of which material? Cast. So this is the back action. So if this is a premolar or a molar, and I ask you, or I request you to draw a clasp that engages in the distal buccal, you could choose a back action. Or if I say an undercut in the distal lingual, you can choose a back action also. So you see, distal, distal. Okay, that's the back action. Now, let's see another one. Let's see what happens when we talk about an embrasure clasp, which is another type. We're just gonna keep it simple to the most important ones. So we have, usually we use it between molars, okay? Or we can use it also between a premolar and a molar. And we usually use the embrasure clasp when we have some space here. Okay, so imagine this molar also. We have enough space first. And sometimes when we have like little space, let's say 1 millimeter, like the molar drifted mesially, and now we have like 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters. You do not have space to put a tooth there, but you can fill the space with an embrasure clasp. So this is the design. So it is the occlusal rests, and then this, if we say this is the mesial, this is the distal, this is the lingual, and this is the buccal. These are the reciprocal arms. So it has two reciprocal arms, like that, and it has two retentive arms. So there's one here. You can draw them like that, like first like thick, and then it goes and ends like pointy, like that. So you see, finishes like that, pointy. Okay, so you see you're engaging the mesiobuccal undercut in this molar and the distal buccal undercut in this molar. And we're filling the space here, which we can put it here. And if it's a premolar, we can also use it premolar and molar, premolar and molar, and usually when we have this space. Okay, so this is the embrasure. Embrasure clasp. Good. Now, I mentioned the RPA. So when we use the RPA, basically, we're engaging the mesial. Let's say this is mesial, this is distal, this is buccal, and this is lingual. So we're engaging a mesial buccal undercut with an RPA. Okay? Now, come here, that was the back action. And then we saw the embrasure. After the embrasure, we're gonna see a rod wire or combination clasp. So, what happens with the combination clasp or rod wire? So, it is basically a cast circumferential, but modified. So, gonna draw here a molar again. Or let's draw a premolar. Okay. Imagine this is a premolar. And imagine we have a distal saddle here. Okay. So this design, I usually design like this. You can draw big and nice like that. This is called an open lattice work. Okay. This is open lattice work. It's the design that you put to draw your saddle. You can either put it like that, or you can just draw a mesh also. But we have different indications whenever we use a mesh or whenever we use an open lattice work. So the mesh, like, we just a mesh with things like that. Okay? So, I always like it like this because this gives me the best retention ever, but this is thicker than this one. So we use this one when we have a good interocclusal space, and we use this one well when we have reduced interocclusal space because this is thinner. It's the mesh. Okay, so a mesh work. Or it's also called a creep acrylic. So creep acrylic mesh work. And this is the open lattice work, which gives me more retention, everything. It's just to retain the acrylic. Okay, so I said this was the combination clasp or rod wire. Means that the cast circumferential, the same design, I'm gonna put it here. We're gonna have a reciprocal arm. We're gonna have our rest. Draw it like this. Then we're gonna have our guiding plane. Remember, it's here, the guiding plane is included. Then comes here and follows the rest of the structure, okay? The major connector. This is the minor connector. So, as I separated here, what were the parts? Retentive arm, rest, reciprocal arm, guiding plane. All together, what we do is that we just cut the retentive arm. All of this keeps being cast, the material, but now we use a flexible wire, which is the rod wire, and it comes here. You're gonna draw them from the saddle, and it goes and engages there. So engages, if this is mesial, this is buccal, this is lingual, well, this is distal. This engages what? A mesial buccal undercut, usually, okay? Without doing modifications and stuff, to keep things simple. So this is a rod wire. So we saw already a rod wire on an RPA, an embrasure clasp, a cast circumferential, and a back action. So now we're gonna see another one, which is two more. We're gonna see the one that is called the ring clasp. So when do we use a ring clasp? We're gonna draw here a molar. Okay, I'm gonna draw a molar. Imagine this is a molar and this is a saddle area, okay? So we have no teeth here. This is the mesial, this is the distal, this is the buccal, and this is the lingual. So usually a ring clasp in the upper engages a distal buccal undercut. And in the lower, usually, because it can be drawn vice versa, but it will complicate stuff. Usually in the lower arc, it goes in a mesial lingual undercut. And sorry, here is a mesial buccal undercut. So it goes in the upper a mesial buccal undercut, and in the lower arc a mesial lingual undercut. So what does it mean? How is the design? So here it means this is the lower arc, say the lower, okay? So we want to engage a mesial lingual undercut. So we want to engage here in this point. So you're gonna start there. You go here. You're gonna have one rest. You continue all around. You continue. You have another rest. There we go. You have your guiding plane here included, and it follows the rest of the structure. But there was a saddle area here, so from there you're gonna have your saddle area, and from here you're gonna have another minor connector, another arm to reinforce this structure because it is too long, so it would break if it's not reinforced by some structure. So this is called a ring clasp, to engage a mesial lingual undercut in the lower arc and a mesial buccal in the upper. So in the upper would be vice versa. Okay? So when do we use this one? Usually if the case demands, we're gonna have a mesial lingually inclined molar. Now we have mesial lingual inclined molar, and he says we have the undercut in the mesial lingual. Then we have to, and the tooth is periodontally compromised. We can't choose this ring clasp because it's a lot of structure, okay, to support the tooth. But also we try to avoid this. It's like our last resource, okay. But that's what we can use. Okay, so that's the ring clasp. And now what we have to see is the next one, which is a hairpin. So hairpin. When do we use a hairpin also? When we have a mesially inclined molar, but now we're gonna have our undercut in this is mesial, this is distal, this is buccal, this is lingual. We're gonna have our undercut in the mesial buccal. So we have a mesial lingual inclined molar, but this undercut here is like too much, that the inclination, so we do not have space to enter with our structure there, our path of insertion. So we need to engage a mesial buccal here. So the hairpin is just like a regular cast, so it has a reciprocal arm, a guiding plane there. It's gonna follow the rest of the structure, the minor connector, and it follows the rest of the structure. And then when it goes like this, all the way back, and then it comes back and engages there. So that's the hairpin, engages in the mesial buccal. So, and it's also like, that's the case when we usually use it, but we also try to avoid it. Like, it's a lot of metal, but that's also another resource that we have, so have to choose and decide when to use it. So now I'm gonna talk about the infrabulge retainers, or infrabulge clasps, or also called they're like roach clasps, right? Like in as we know, like in Europe. Okay, so I'm just gonna talk about the ones that we usually use, which are the I bar, or it can be a T bar, an L bar, and Y bar. It just depends on the design. I'm gonna draw it here. And what's the difference between an RPI? So I see that there is a lot of confusion also when we talk about these two designs. So I'm gonna draw here what it means to have an RPI as an RPA. So I'm gonna draw here a premolar. This is mesial, this is buccal, this is lingual, this is distal, and we have a free end saddle. Okay, so I always do my open lattice work. Okay, just like that. Okay, it doesn't matter here. It's not the number of teeth. It is just like I put whatever, like 2, 3. It doesn't matter. Okay. So, what does it mean? RPA again. A mesial rest. I'm gonna put it like this. Mesial rest comes from here. The minor connector. It has proximal guiding plane or proximal plate here. It engages there. Okay. Here it continues with the structure with the major connector, and the I is the I bar. So one thing is the RPI, which has a mesial rest. So, and the bar comes from here. So what's the I bar? This would be the retentive arm, like the cast circumferential that we saw it, and we cut them in pieces. So the only thing I'm changing here is the retentive arm. The retentive arm, it comes from here, from the saddle, but it is cast. So the RPI, it's cast. All the material is cast. Okay? Now, the I bar. This is called just an I bar? So when do we usually apply this I bar? Just I bar and not RPI. Usually in class 3s. I have class 3. So I'm gonna draw here. Imagine we have a premolar. I have a molar here. So this is again the mesial, the distal, this is buccal, and this is lingual. So we're talking about tooth supported cases or supported segments. Okay, we're not talking about fulcral lines or anything yet. So here again, I have my open lattice work here. 1, 2, whatever. And then we draw it again. So we have now a distal rest. I have the guiding plane. Comes there. And we have a reciprocal arm. And it follows the structure there. Okay? Minor connector follows the structure. But now, the bar comes there. So, this is not an RPI because just the R means that the rest is in the mesial. We still have the guiding plane, but we have this. The rest is in the distal. Have a reciprocal arm here, the minor connector, and this portion will play the role as a reciprocal arm in the design of an RPI, which is the I bar included there, because the I bar is just a retentive arm. That's it, that we put it there. Okay, so we can use this because this is tooth supported, and here I can put, imagine it's a class 3, so I just put my retentive arm here and my reciprocal arm here. Tooth supported case, I have no fulcrum, and this is a cast circumferential. Perfect. Now, which undercut it engages? Either the I bar or the RPI, because it's the same. Just the retentive arm, it's going to engage usually the mid buccal. mid buccal, but it can also engage in the distal buccal. In some cases, a little bit of the mesial, but usually mid buccal and the distal buccal. Distal buccal, to reach there, we will have to do a modification, which would be an L bar or a T modified T bar, which comes like this for the tooth to engage in this distal portion of the tooth. Okay, so that's when we use an RPI. So this is the difference of an RPI and just a regular I bar, just the position of the rest. Okay, so with that we covered all the how to draw all the clasps. So guys, before moving on, I would like to explain you very well how to draw an RPA clasp. It has 3 variations. Okay, so first it was created as a modification of an RPI clasp, which we already saw. So I'm gonna put 3 different cases, how to draw them, the 3 scenarios. And imagine this is just premolars. This is a saddle, premolar, saddle, buccal, lingual, buccal, lingual. Okay, so RPA, so it means we have a mesial rest, comes here, then it contours all the tooth, and then this distal part turns into a guiding plane, so it's all flat, and then continues and it goes and engages the mesiobuccal undercut. So now we say, hey, wait, this looks like a back action. Do not get confused. A back action, it's pretty similar. You can even actually say that an RPI in this position works as a back action. But the back action ends here. So it begins with that, the rest. So it comes all the contour of the tooth and finishes here. So it engages in the distal buccal undercut. And you know this is the saddle. So this is a back action. There is no guiding plane here. So it is just this, cast, and engages there. While this portion turns like rigid into a proximal plate or a guiding plane, and then comes and engages the mesiobuccal undercut. So this is the first way to draw an RPA. Now, what's the second variation of an RPA? It's again same principle. We have the mesial rest, comes here, minor connector, and then here goes like the major connector, and from here comes the guiding plane. From the major connector keeps the structure, guiding plane, and from this guiding plane again, it projects and continues here and engages the mesiobuccal undercut. It's again, what's this? Mesial rest, distal guiding plane, the acres or acres. So it engages the mesiobuccal undercut. Again, all of these two designs are cast, made of cast. However, the RPA was meant to be more flexible when it comes in comparison to the RPI. So it can also have a rod-wide retentive arm. Okay, so how do we draw this third design of RPA? Again, we have the mesial rest. Come here, the minor connector comes here. From here comes again my guiding plane, but now it's not just one structure because it's not cast. So it comes here my guiding plane, continues here with the major connector, and from here, again from the saddle, comes the rod wire, which is the retentive arm. There we go. And engages the mesiobuccal. What's this? We have a distal guiding plane, a mesial rest, so R, P, and the retentive arm. So we still have an RPA, which would be considered kind of a combination clasp, but do not get confused again. A combination clasp or rod wire is basically a circumferential, but with a rod wire retentive arm. So, translation. Have here the premolar again. Rod wire. How do we draw a rod wire or combination clasp? We need an occlusal rest, a reciprocal arm, a guiding plane. It comes there, follows the structure. Here's the saddle. And always from the saddle area comes the rod wire, the retentive arm. There we go. Rod wire engages the mesial buckle. So look, we have reciprocal arm, occlusal rest, guiding plane, and it engages the mesial buckle. So that's the design of a rod wire. Now, the rod wire, also, this can be reversed. So if my undercut would be in the mesiolingual, you can change the position of everything. Okay? You change it so that we can have the rod wire here in the lingual part instead of the buckle. That's possible. Here we have the design of an RPA, which has a mesial rest and a distal guiding plane, but doesn't have a reciprocal arm as a combination clasp does. But the reciprocation is given by the minor connector and the part of the structure here. This is the reciprocation area that functions as that. Kind of a reciprocating arm, okay? That's the way it functions. And that's it. So, combination clasp, rod wire, RPA with rod wire retentive arm, an RPA cast when it comes all together, kind of a back action, but distal, the proximal guiding plane and extended cast, and another one where it is separated. This functions as a reciprocating arm, also guiding plane, and comes there, cast. Okay, so cast, and the retentive arm with rod wire. You can see the difference between back action and an RPA, a rod wire, and an RPA with a rod wire retentive arm. Okay?